Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're going deep on angelic evocation.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's wild stuff. We've got these blog posts from someone who's like actually doing it,
Oh, wow.
using this system. It's called drawing spirits into crystals.
Okay.
And they've even brought in some other magical texts too. We're talking about summoning angels like Cassiel, Sakiel, even Raphael.
Wow, that's a pretty impressive lineup.
It is right.
Yeah.
So we're going to break down how they do it, what they've seen, and what it all means, for magic today.
It's fascinating, isn't it? This blend of like really old school magic with a totally modern twist
Yeah.
makes you wonder how that ancient stuff could like actually work in our world.
Right. So DSIC drawing spirits into crystals. What's the basic idea here?
So it's all about calling on specific angels, to communicate with them, maybe even get some help.
Okay.
The main book they're using is Johannes Trithemius's The Art of Drawing Spirits into Crystals, which is like 16th century. Talk about old school.
Yeah, so this isn't something they just like made up. It's got some serious history behind it.
For sure.
And our blogger didn't just jump in head first. They actually started out kind of a little rough, didn't they?
Yeah, they mentioned using red wine at first.
Oh, interesting.
Not exactly traditional. And they had this potentially messed up table of art from some other grimoire. Like they were missing a key piece of the puzzle.
Hold on. A table of art. That sounds more like, I don't know, something for a museum.
Well, think of it like a magical blueprint. It shows you the connections, like which angels go with which planets, days, hours, all these symbolic elements that are crucial for like making contact.
Got it. So you can't just, like wing it. There's a real method to the magic.
Exactly. And that's what makes the practitioner's journey so cool. They went from kind of a haphazard approach to something way more refined, ditched the alcohol, fixed that table of art, and even started using stuff from other books like Seven Spheres, Gateways Through Stone, and Circle, and Luminarium. It's like they built their own personalized magic system.
They did like a magical remix.
Yeah, kind of.
And their tools are interesting too. They mentioned 7 lamens, a paper wand, a bunch of other stuff. Did all that like contribute to their success, you think?
That's the big question, right? It's hard to say for sure, but it shows they're serious about this. They're not afraid to experiment to like really get their hands dirty with the magic.
Right, not just following a recipe, but actually like shaping it.
Exactly.
And here's where it gets really interesting. They shift from wanting to like literally see the angels to focusing on synchronicities, meaningful coincidences as a way of communicating. What do you make of that?
It's like they're going deeper. Instead of some dramatic visual appearance, they're tuning into subtle signs in their daily life.
Like picking up on hidden messages.
Yeah, like that.
Okay, so let's get into the specific angels they worked with. First up is Cassiel, associated with Saturn. And they had some pretty intense experiences there.
Cassiel definitely brought the drama. Weather-wise, they talk about dark, rainy weather like every time they evoked him. Spooky.
Right. It's like a reflection of Saturn's energy.
Makes sense. Oh, and there's this one time where they felt intoxicated during the ritual, but they weren't drinking.
Yeah, it's wild, right? Sounds like a powerful, altered state of consciousness. Makes you wonder if it's purely psychological or if something more is going on, like a real energy connection.
So even without seeing anything, they still felt this presence.
Right. And the really interesting communication happened afterward through those synchronicities.
Oh, that's right. They weren't looking for one big event, but these patterns that emerged over time.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay, let's move on to Sakiel, who's linked to Jupiter. Now, with Sakiel, our practitioner got very specific about what they wanted.
Oh, yeah, they were upfront about wanting material wealth, abundance, all that. And they specifically asked Sakil for help.
They didn't mess around. And they even made this like custom design augmented layman.
Yeah, they took the basic layman and like supercharged it, added all these Jupiterian symbols and herbs. It's like they built a magical magnet for abundance. So did it work?
Well, they got a new freelance gig with a great hourly rate. Their book sales went up. They even had more opportunities for overtime.
Wow, okay. But is that like all thanks to Sakil? Or could it just be, coincidence?
That's the million-dollar question, right? It's tempting to draw a straight line from the ritual to those results. But we got to consider other factors, too. Maybe it's a mix of magic and their own hard work and talent. Or maybe they were already on the path to success and the ritual just, like, sped things up.
So it's not necessarily about magic, like conjuring money out of thin air, but maybe more about aligning yourself with the right energy and opportunity.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, so we've got Saturn, we've got Jupiter, now on to Raphael, associated with Mercury,
Hmm.
and this is where we get that TV show synchronicity.
Oh, yeah, this one's interesting.
I'm all ears. Tell me more.
So they're describing this sudden urge to watch The Flash on Netflix, like out of nowhere.
Okay.
And they weren't really into the show before, but they felt this pull to watch it.
Sounds like a classic synchronicity nudge, right?
Right. And then in the show, there's this scene where a villain, right before they die, they shout out, "Harnessing the power of the god Mercury."
Whoa. That's pretty on the nose, isn't it?
Right. And remember, Mercury is Raphael's domain.
Yeah, of course.
And this happened while they were just casually watching TV, not, actively seeking guidance.
So even when we're not doing rituals, these connections can still pop up.
It seems that way. It's almost like doing these practices makes you more aware, more sensitive to these subtle patterns.
So it's not just about the rituals themselves, but like cultivating a new way of seeing the world.
Exactly.
Fascinating. So it's not just about the rituals, but like opening your eyes to a whole new way of seeing things.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, back to our practitioners' results. That financial upswing they got with Sakiel, pretty impressive. What, could it just be a coincidence? Maybe things were already looking up for them career-wise?
Yeah, it's tough to say for sure. How do we separate magic from hard work, talent, even luck? It's all tangled up together.
It's like trying to figure out which thread pulled the whole thing.
Right. And it's good to think about other explanations too, like the placebo effect maybe. If they really believe it works, that belief itself could draw in opportunities they might have missed otherwise.
So believing in the magic makes it come true, in a way.
Kind of. And then there's confirmation bias too. We all do it, right? We notice things that support what we already believe and kind of ignore the stuff that doesn't fit.
Yeah, we're good at seeing what we want to see.
Exactly. So if they're already looking for magic, they might interpret things as proof, even if there's a totally normal explanation.
So we got to be careful about jumping to conclusions.
Definitely. We can't just dismiss their experience, but we got to remember how our minds work, Cause and effect, it can be super tricky with this stuff.
It's a tightrope walk, isn't it? Believing in the extraordinary, but also staying realistic.
Exactly. And I think our practitioner does a good job of that. They're curious, open-minded, but they're always refining their understanding, both of the system and themselves. It's a process, not a destination.
It's like they're not just following instructions, they're really engaging with it, trying things out, figuring it out as they go.
Yeah.
Which is a good lesson for all of us, right?
For sure. Question, explore, be a little skeptical, but stay open to what's possible.
That's the spirit. Speaking of exploration, they mentioned wanting to create the powder of Pelagius. Sounds intense.
Right. That's a whole other rabbit hole.
So who was this Pelagius, anyway?
Well, he was Trithemius' mentor, actually. Super mysterious figure, lots of whispers about alchemy and magic.
Sounds like a real wizard.
Yeah. And the powder itself could be a real substance, a metaphor, maybe even both.
It's like a secret key to understanding the whole system, its history, its philosophy.
Yeah. Who knows what they'll find when they dig into that.
It's all about the journey, right? You never know what you'll discover along the way.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've covered a lot here. Ancient texts, calling angels, synchronicities, this powder of Pelagius. What are the big takeaways you think our listeners should remember?
Well, we've seen how someone can take this centuries-old magic and make it their own, It's not about blindly following rules, but really getting involved, experimenting.
Made it personal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they show us how powerful it can be to pay attention to synchronicities, those little nudges from the universe.
It's like learning a new language, the language of signs and symbols.
Yeah, and it's about opening your eyes to the possibility that there's more to everyday life than we realize.
Right, like there's magic hidden all around us.
Yeah.
But we also have to be smart about it, right? Like with those financial results, yeah, they were impressive, but we have to be critical too. Understand how our minds work, how easily we can trick ourselves.
Totally. Be open to the extraordinary, but keep your feet on the ground. That's the key.
Be curious, but don't be gullible. So for someone listening, maybe for the first time, and they're thinking, okay, this is wild, but what does it mean for me? What would you say?
I'd say these ancient traditions, they might have something to offer us today, even if we're a little skeptical. What's the harm in exploring?
Yeah, even if it just helps you see the world in a new way.
Right. And you never know, you might start noticing your own synchronicities.
Like a sudden urge to watch The Flash.
Maybe. But seriously, if you're curious, follow that curiosity. Read the books we talked about, do some research, and pay attention to your own experiences. What feels right to you? What sparks your interest?
Start your own deep dive.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, that's a great place to wrap things up. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep your minds open and those eyes peeled for synchronicities. You never know what they might be trying to tell you.
So much to unpack here. We've gone from like ancient books to calling on angels,
Yeah.
synchronicities, even that powder of Pelagius. What are the big takeaways for our listeners? Well, I think it's really inspiring, seeing someone take this old magic system and make it work for them in their own way. It's not about following rules blindly, but like really getting into it.
Yeah, making it your own. And they show us how to listen to those synchronicities, those like cosmic winks.
Exactly. It's like opening your eyes to this whole other layer of reality.
Right, like magic's hidden everywhere if you just know how to look.
Yeah.
But we can't get too carried away, right?
Hmm.
Like with the money stuff, yeah, it's awesome, but got to keep a critical mind. Remember how easily we can fool ourselves.
Absolutely. Openness to the extraordinary, but with a healthy dose of reality check.
Don't check your brain at the door.
Yeah.
So someone's listening to this maybe for the first time, and they're thinking, okay, this is wild, but what's in it for me? What would you say to them?
I'd say there's something powerful about these traditions, even if you're skeptical. Why not explore, see what resonates?
Yeah, just see where it takes you. Maybe it'll change how you see the world.
Right, and who knows, maybe you'll start having your own synchronicities pop up.
Maybe they'll feel a sudden urge to read Trithemius.
Haha, maybe. But seriously, if you're curious, follow that thread, read the books, do some research, and most importantly, listen to yourself. What feels right? What makes you go, interesting?
Start your own deep dive adventure.
Exactly.
Love it. Well, that's a wrap for us, folks. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride. Until next time, keep those minds open, those eyes peeled for synchronicities. They might just be trying to tell you something.